Now, if you're watching this video and asking yourself, why should I care about For Honor in the year 2025? Like, ain't this game 8 years old or something? And don't get me wrong, I get that feeling, and it's not particularly relevant anymore. That's true. But the actual point of this video isn't entirely about For Honor. I'm not here just to talk about it. I'm here to make a broader point. Because you see, For Honor, to me, actually is emblematic of a massive element we've been missing in major releases over the past few years. What I'm talking about is innovation. Risk-taking, actual new ideas. So yeah, this video is kind of about For Honor, but it's also about how AAA studios should follow in its footsteps and actually make something new. Don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect game by any means. In fact, it's deeply flawed. It's a game plagued by a bevy of issues that end up pushing me away from it long term, realistically, right? So we'll go over these issues, trust me, but the game also always ends up pulling me back somehow, even if only for a few games. And I've been scratching my head wondering, how does it bring me back every time? And it hit me a few days ago. There's no other game like For Honor. Even a flawed game's interesting if it's truly unique. And a mediocre or decent game that brings nothing unique to the table is quickly forgotten. Let's go over what makes For Honor so unique, the issues that stop it from truly being an incredible game, and the broader point I actually want to make about gaming. So what the heck is a For Honor? If you've played the game before, don't worry. This isn't going to be like a comprehensive tutorial on the game. I'm just setting up the quick idea of what it is, for those who might not know. At its core, For Honor is a third-person game where you play as a medieval warrior of some sort and you fight other people online. You can guard and attack in 3 directions, dodge, break people's guards, parry, some other basic combat mechanics. At its essence, you pick a character, almost like a fighting game character, who has a specific toolkit and some special moves that only they can do. The reason I wanted to explain this a little is because normally maybe you would just say, oh, this is this type of game by just giving the genre and like an adjective. You can't do that with For Honor, right? Because you can't say, oh, For Honor is this type of game, because there's no one genre that fits it. That's because it's so unique. But for argument's sake, let's try and give it a single genre. So it's clearly a competitive third-person combat game. That's clear. But what kind? Because that's not a genre. Well, you can play 1v1s in the game. And that makes it kind of feel like a fighting game, I guess. Maybe? But it doesn't have the side perspective that is the determining factor of a traditional fighting game. So it can't be that. Definitely not a traditional fighting game. You also can't call it an arena fighter either. I mean, no combos, none of the big movement arena fighters are known for, no auto combos by mashing a single button. That's part of the reason why people play arena fighters. So how can you really call it an arena fighter? At best, For Honor is fighting game adjacent. What complicates things even more is it has a 4v4 mode called Dominion, which is really popular and one of the main modes people play it for. The mode is kind of like a Call of Duty domination style match where you have to try and get control of 3 zones, except one of the zones can only be controlled by pushing minion waves. And when you capture points, kill minions or enemy players, you get stronger by unlocking skills? Isn't that kind of like a MOBA? Well, yeah, it kind of is, but no serious person would say that For Honor is a MOBA. That's ridiculous. So then maybe we can call it a medieval combat simulator like Chivalry or Mordhau or something like that. And it feels like we're getting closer. Kind of. But then the combat really isn't simulator. Like, it's super gamified. For Honor has clear combat systems that don't try to be realistic at all, that really try and make an interesting interactive experience that's not about being over the top, it's about being strategic, right? That doesn't feel like a medieval combat simulator at all. Or even like a hack and slash type game either, that doesn't work. It's more about picking a medieval knight, samurai, Viking, or other type of warrior with a unique moveset and competing against other players. And because of the dichotomy between the different number of players that can be within a match because of different modes, it's even harder to just boil it down to one genre. That's impossible. That's because of how incredibly unique it is. Realistically, it's an experimental game that is a mix of all the genres I previously mentioned, and that's what makes it so special. Combining these genres does a lot for the game, in many ways. One way is that if you look at the game as a fighting game, well, it actually fixes one of the major issues with most fighting games, which is trying to get your friends to play with you. It can be really hard to get a friend to play a fighting game with you if you already play it, because the only way to play together is to fight one another, which inevitably ends up with the experienced player stomping the new player. For Honor doesn't have that issue because it also has team-based modes where you can fight alongside your friends without just owning them over and over again. Now, other games have tried this. Other fighting games have tried this. One is coming out soon, actually, in 2XKO, which is taking a tag fighter approach where each player is going to be one of the characters. And obviously, For Honor is not a fighting game. But still, this is a really interesting result of combining genres. And the fact that somehow a team at Ubisoft, of all places, managed to get the approval to make a game so different that it's basically in a genre of its own honestly blows my mind. But you can also feel the Ubisoft grind. Really, anti-consumer practices are everywhere in the game. It's almost like the devs had to convince the higher-ups to greenlight the game by promising that they would find a way to make it a live service with microtransactions everywhere. And that was the promise of high revenue that got them to actually be able to make the game. Let's get to some of the negatives. Because damn, there's a lot. This game is cursed with one of the greatest curses in all of gaming. It's a goddamn Ubisoft game. It's up there with some of the worst curses you can have upon your game, like being an EA game. It's that bad. What that means is a game launched for full price. You still had to purchase the characters. In good AAA fashion, it was obviously a very buggy launch, with bugs that completely break the flow of combat, like zone attack flickering, taking forever to get fixed. And the game didn't launch with a lot of key features that you would expect in a game like this. For example, dedicated servers for your 4v4 mode, maybe? I mean, seriously? This game is not ancient, by the way. It came out in 2017. How the hell did they think 4v4 peer-to-peer matches would be acceptable in 2017? It was just a laggy mess. No one wanted to play this game in 4v4. Which was kind of one of the big selling points of the game. The 4v4 mode is really fun. The worst part? Took them over a year to finally add dedicated servers. By that time, many people had simply given up on the game. And I can't blame them, because I know I definitely did. Starting in 2018, Ubisoft tried to make the game free for short periods of time to get players interested, which in fact did lead to For Honor's peak concurrent players in 2018, which was over 200,000, incredibly, on Steam. But they couldn't even do that simply. Had to be done weird and almost predatory. It wasn't a real free-to-play launch. Many people thought the game had gone truly free-to-play for good, right? But that was just weird marketing. What they were actually doing is offering a free version of the game only for a few weeks at a time, but then it would go back to full price after. Now, these weren't free trials. If you got the game for free during those periods of time, you got to keep it, and it was the free version, not the full version. But then they're not offering that all the time, and they don't make that clear. Very weird. That free version is a very downgraded free version as well. For example, all the basic heroes that I didn't complain too much about them being needed to unlock, even with the paid version, because they are made super cheap, so they're very quick to unlock, compared to the DLC characters they added later. These heroes are 16 times the regular price on the free version. 16 times. Now, you could say that paying for the game basically gives you those 12 characters at a heavy discount, but that's still, 16 is a lot. To this day, the game still costs $30. So it does go on sale, I'm sure. And I imagine they still do those free week where you can get the free version for a while. But I mean, for an 8 to 9-year-old game, $30 US is kind of a big ask to get into a competitive game where a lot of your competitors, even though they're not the same genre, are free to play. Crossplay took them until 2022 to implement, but I guess at least they got there. Considering this game came out in 2017 and crossplay wasn't a complete industry standard yet, right? It wasn't fully expected out of every multiplayer game. It's nice that they at least got to it eventually. 2022 is a very late point to implement that, but kudos to them for actually doing it. And kudos to them for supporting the game as well. The devs have supported this game over the years very well. They still updated, they still add heroes even to this day. But many of the core issues with the game are either unfixable, too expensive to fix, or there's no financial incentive for Ubisoft to approve a fix for them. I mean, this game still has one of the longest loading screens to get into a match in any online game to this day, right? And that would obviously take ages to fix. That's a perfect example of something just too expensive to fix because it's probably engine related or just how the game is built, because it is a previous gen game at the end of the day and it needs to be playable on PS4 and stuff, right? Now let's get to the big scummy practices. The monetization. Starting with microtransactions. Characters in this game are straight up really expensive. $10 US for a single character if it was added after release. Now, we can compare with fighting games again, and say they do also charge money for their characters. It's $5 per character if it wasn't in the base game. And there's also a season pass offer there for cheaper characters. But even at $5, people complain about fighting games being really expensive to get into all the time. So getting away with charging twice that is kind of not easy. And to be fair, For Honor does offer hero passes that function like season passes of characters, right? That you can buy for like $40 US. But guess what? There's only 2 of those. They each only cover 6 heroes, which is like a $2 to $3 discount per hero. And like half the DLC characters aren't covered under this. You can only direct purchase them for $10. The only decent thing about For Honor's business practices is that at the very least, you can technically get all the heroes for free through the free currency. But again, there's never a good thing without a but following it, because this is a Ubisoft game. It would take a ton of grinding, specifically over a long period of time, because in live service fashion, you get most of your free currency through a quest that you only get every few days. Because obviously they need you to log in all the time. That's how these games keep you playing. You might have also guessed it already because this game is a live service game, but it does offer a ton of cosmetics too, you know, like skins for like 10 to $15, which compared to what else is out there these days, I guess is not that terrible. But what does feel bad is that the skins kind of suck compared to other games, but I guess that's subjective. Moving on though, let's get into the real scum of their monetization tactics. Here comes gear score. You get a bit of free gear at the end of every match. You can equip this gear on your characters, each individual one needing its own gear, and that boosts their stats and gives them special effects in matches. Because that is an absolutely incredible idea to have in a competitive game. Surely that belongs there. At least it's only in the 4v4 modes, and it's not the most impactful thing ever. You can still absolutely win a fight against someone with perfect gear score when you have none. It's not a massive effect, but it's still deeply stupid and completely unnecessary to put into a game like this. It can only be justified in any way if there is money to be made from it. That is the only justification. And since this is a Ubisoft game, you know there's money to be made there. The main thing blocking you from getting stronger gear is your character's level, actually. And that can be directly bought, I guess. You basically need to prestige your characters a few times before you can get the higher rarity gears to drop. And that can't be directly bought, I guess. You sure can make leveling faster by paying. And you also need certain resources to upgrade your gear too. Obviously, you can pay for that. Want to have more gear pieces now you finally leveled up your character high enough to get the higher rarities? Well, you could play quite a few matches and get it done in not a terrible amount of time. But you could also pay for it. The issue isn't that the system forces you to pay money to get strong. In fact, through normal gameplay, you really won't feel a need to pay money if you're playing the game normally. But the fact that you can is deeply insulting. Ubisoft is clearly banking on a few whales being willing to pay for strength every now and then to generate some extra revenue, and that's simply disgusting. Now, it feels like I've been shitting on the game for a while now, and I guess I might have been venting a little, because I do like this game, and I'm sad that it's a Ubisoft game. But I promise this video is supposed to be mostly positive. The reason I went so deep into these critiques is because despite all the negative Ubisoft bullshit in the game, I still somehow find myself coming back to it, if even only once every few years. For Honor is a very weird game because the way I like to talk about it is the gameplay is incredible, everything else is atrocious. Now imagine if the game didn't have all that mess. Imagine if a studio that wanted to make something truly new didn't have to listen to idiotic executives who've never played a video game. Imagine how great the games we would get would be. For Honor may not have shot itself in the foot like it did if that was the case. Unfortunately, it's indie games who have had to bear the mantle of innovation in recent years, because AAA studios aren't allowed to do that. They're not allowed to innovate anymore. That's because AAA studios have been too busy producing slop and chasing trends. Games like Suicide Squad and Concord didn't end up so bad because the people actually working on the games were just bad at their job. They didn't have to be absolutely atrocious games. But executives wanted a game about the damn Suicide Squad of all things to be a long-term live service game. Like seriously, who the hell asked for that? No one asked for an uninspired hero shooter with nothing to distinguish itself from the pack either. To then slap Concord with a $40 price tag when its competitors are completely free and much better can only be described as either executive sabotage or pure idiocy. To some extent, this video is actually about how executives are ruining gaming. People who only care about making money and don't get video games or gamers at all are turning experiences that could have been once in a generation pieces of media into trend-chasing slop with absolutely nothing unique to offer. I don't mean to be entirely pessimistic about the future of gaming. I'm a gamer at heart, and there are always good games coming out every year, even if we get slop. And the fact that slop titles like Suicide Squad and Concord are starting to flop more and more is a very good thing for gaming. And to be fair, over the last few years, we've even seen many lower priced titles be really high quality and pop off really hard. For example, Expedition 33. Expedition 33 is a perfect example of what I mean when I say we need more games like For Honor. I don't mean make a sequel. I mean take risks. Make something that doesn't already exist. The team behind Expedition 33 took a risk. They were brave enough to try and answer the question, what if we made a turn-based RPG where you can win any battle while under-leveled through sheer mechanical skill? And what if we try to answer that question with a small team while actually being consumer-friendly and providing a full game for a single price? Now, if only larger studios could get behind that vision as well. I sincerely doubt that'll happen though, at least not anytime soon. And it makes logical sense. Larger studios play it safe, and that's completely understandable. I mean, innovating means taking risks. Who knows if there's an audience out there for a game so unique it doesn't even fit within a genre? There's no market research you can use to convince a money-grubbing executive to greenlight a project in a space that might not even exist. For Honor isn't perfect. It's damn far from it. But if a company like Ubisoft, of all things, can produce a game like that, imagine what a team led by people who actually care about the consumer can make when they take risks and try to innovate. Video games are a medium where truly anything is possible. I genuinely believe that. And maybe one day executives will learn, though I believe that a lot less. That's a tall task for an executives to learn, I'm sure. But there's positive signs everywhere in gaming. At least in some places. Marvel Rivals is one example. Certainly a games as a service model, which can be sad, but makes sense for a competitive game, at the very least. But at least all of its characters are free. It's a massive improvement compared to most free competitive games. And there's still studios crafting great single player experiences for a single price tag out there. Though yes, unfortunately it does look like that price is going to go up soon. An example is From Software, who pride themselves on providing life-changing experiences for a single price tag that works on launch. As much as I hate a lot of Nintendo's business practices, I have to give them some props as well for not falling down the microtransaction hole. This will provide full experiences for a single price tag. Generally, also, the game being complete on launch. Don't look at their sports games on Switch. They're terrible. Don't touch them. And Pokemon doesn't count. Because yes, those games are not what they should be. But yeah, we do actually need more games like For Honor. Probably not from Ubisoft anymore though. At least not current day Ubisoft. But we do actually need games like this. At the end of the day, the greatest art is never made by playing it safe. If you made it here, I guess thanks. I don't believe in outros, so you're not getting one. Sub if you want to hear me yap about more games. And comment if you hate me and everything about me. Alright, go do something better with your time.